You have a challenging job. What could be more challenging than to really care about what you do and the people you work with, yet those same people can be apathetic? I know because I'm a professor, and I know students can be apathetic, and sometimes they can be immature, and a lot of times they don't have the life skills or life experiences to really appreciate what you do for them. And it takes those life experiences to really appreciate the knowledge and the value that you give to them. And when you don't feel appreciated, I know it's hard to be motivated, it's hard to be inspired. And I have to be honest with you. When I was a college student, I had goofier hair than I do now. No, I have to be honest with you. I didn't see someone in career services. I wish I had, because I was lost. When I was in college, I was lost. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where I was going to go. And if I had seen someone in career services, I would have been on the track much quicker than I am today. But what could be more important than helping students find the career that they really love? I mean, there's nothing more important than that. And I know when you help students find a career that they really, really enjoy and that they're going to love, that makes you feel great. And it's my goal this morning to show you how to always find that feeling of greatness in everything you do. That's my expertise. I'm going to show you this morning how to find that feeling of greatness and make sure it's that feeling of greatness in every situation, so that it actually become a habit, so that when the pressure comes in your lives and the students are not appreciating you and they're getting upset, that you're going to return to greatness. That's my expertise. And the first step in this process is to be emotionally aware. I learned this very important lesson when I was 15. When I was 15, yes, I had even goofier hair back then. And those are short shorts, yes. Check out it's the 1970s, I'm sorry. When I was 15, I had a great life. I was on the tennis team, I had great grades, and then my dad died. And I remember I went from this really fun-loving, good student to a terrible teen. And I was getting in fights with other students. I was getting mad at teachers. And luckily, the vice principal cared, and he called me into his office, and he said, "Gregg, you're going to be expelled if you don't get help. I want you to see Dr. Carlson." I didn't want to see Dr. Carlson. I didn't want to see a shrink. I didn't even know what a shrink was back then, but I didn't want to see one. But he insisted. So I saw Dr. Carlson that afternoon, and within a few minutes, Dr. Carlson knew exactly what was blocking me. And he said, "Gregg, see this pillow? I want you to pretend this pillow is your dad, and I want you to start hitting it." I was like, "I'm not going to hit that pillow if it's my dad." And he said, "No, just go with it. Just start hitting it." So I started hitting it, and then I started hitting it harder, and then all of a sudden my emotions just got out of whack, and I just started hitting hard. I wanted to rip it, and I threw it on the ground. I stomped on it, and then I yelled out a painful scream. And that was the beginning. And I know a lot of you have lost a parent when you were young, and it's hard, and it's painful. And maybe you repressed those emotions like I had. But when Dr. Carlson allowed me to become aware of my emotions, it changed me. And it basically put me on the path that I am in terms of understanding how important emotions are. And so for the last 30 years, I actually made it my mission to understand how people master their emotions and how successful people master their emotions. Because I can guarantee you this, to be successful, it's not about mental toughness. It's about emotional toughness. And the most successful people have mastered their emotions because you know the nuts and bolts of your job. You know what to say, you know how to say it, you know the interaction part, but to be at your best, you have to be able to master your emotions. You have to get pumped up in a moment's notice. You have to be calm when the students get upset with you. You have to be inspired when you feel flat. When you can master your emotions, you're going to be successful. And a great analogy is, think of an elephant, and you are the rider. That is your rational self. But the elephant is your emotions. It is huge. It is powerful. It will take you places you want to go, and it'll take you places you don't want to go. It's impulsive. And it can stamp out your friends, it can stamp out your loved ones, and it can stomp out your success. But if you have the right skills and the right techniques to carry your elephant, to carry emotions in the right direction, you will be very, very successful. And what I've discovered is that the people who are most successful, because I've studied people for the last 30 years, I've worked with professional athletes, the best athletes in the world. I worked with business executives. I've discovered all these people who are successful, who've mastered their emotions, follow what I call this triad of greatness. And the first step to the triad is to be emotionally aware of your best state, which I call your sweet spot. Right? When you're at your best state, when you're in the flow, in the zone, it feels really sweet, right? But what's interesting about our sweet spot is this. We know in brain science that when you have an extreme emotional event, it actually becomes an emotional template in your mind. So for instance, think about 9/11, an extreme traumatic experience. You probably remember when you first heard about 9/11, you maybe were frustrated, you were sad, you were angered, whatever it is. I guarantee you, when you think about 9/11, that first moment you heard about it, these emotions come up, right? I remember before class, I had a student come up to me and she said, "We're at war." And I'm like, "What?" And she said, "They just bombed the Twin Towers." That's the first time I heard about it, and I was like shocked. It's just like, I can remember her face, I remember what she was wearing. There's a template in my mind, just like you. But there's a template in your mind for your best state. You just have to unlock it. You have to rediscover that. And everybody's best state is unique. I'm unique, you're unique, you're unique, you're unique. We all have this unique sweet spot, and we have to rediscover that. Which leads us to the next step, which is being prepared. And that takes practice, practice, practice to basically make sure that these emotions associated with our best state become a habit. And if you practice it through daily routines, which we'll talk about how to do that later, it becomes a habit, which is related to the last step, which is this. One of the oldest psychological principles on the book is this. We go to our habits under pressure. We go to our habits under pressure. So if you made your sweet spot your habit, you're going to return to your best state when it really counts. You're going to return to your best state under pressure. But think about this. Don't a lot of us go to our bad habits under pressure? I mean, who overeats when they're sad? Raise your hand. No, don't raise your hand. Who, when they're slightly depressed, they just want to lay in bed and not get up and not go to work? Raise your hand. Okay, don't do it. Whose attitude turns sour when they faced failure? It's easy to fall back into these bad habits. But what I've discovered is truly successful people, they have great habits. They've made their habits great, and so they become great when it really counts. And one of the greatest examples, and one of the best examples I could give you that follow this triad of greatness, and you've heard this story about Flight 1549. That's when the plane was coming out of LaGuardia Airport, and the birds hit the plane, and he had to land the plane in the Hudson River. You heard that story. It was in all the media. Well, I don't think you've heard the entire story. Because when the birds hit the plane and the engines went out, Captain Sullenberger's emotions were out of whack. His heart rate went out of whack, his eyesight was going in and out, and his thoughts crept back to his two young daughters. In fact, one of his daughters was having a birthday party that Saturday. But he said, "No, I have to remain calm and focused. I have to remain calm and focused." And he got calm and focused, and he made the right decision, and he landed that plane in the Hudson River. And we all remember this iconic image. And they called that the miracle flight of 1549. Well, let me tell you, there was nothing miraculous about that flight. Nothing. Because for the last 20 years, Captain Sullenberger had prepared for that one particular moment. In fact, he listened to the recorders of crashed planes, and he listened to the erroneous decisions that those pilots made, and he realized they made bad decisions because their emotions were out of whack. So he created a U.S. Air Safety course in which he trained pilots to remain cool, calm, and collected. And he knew his sweet spot to make the right decision was to be cool, calm, and collected. So he trained himself for thousands of hours to stay calm, cool, and collected. And so when that horrendous situation happened, guess what? He fell back into his great habit. He made the right decision, and he saved all those lives. He emotionally prepared himself for the right moment, and when it happened, he was ready. Now, I know a lot of you have a lot of pressure in your lives. And pressure is relative, right? Hopefully you'll never, ever have to deal with that horrific situation. But you have a lot of pressure-packed situations in your life. And so being able to be at your best when a student gets all upset because that student's not getting the job or the interview, and being able to be inspired every day when you don't feel like it, when you're stressed out, when things at home aren't going, to be at your best is so important. To be at your best and make that your habit is huge, because what you do and the impact you have on students is so important that you need to be at your best. It's vital that you be at your best. It's vital that you use this methodology so that you can be your best when it really counts. And I think one of the best ways to show you how to use this methodology is through bringing someone up on stage here with me to show you how to use it and to show you how it can be applied. So we already have a, I'm not going to say sucker, no. We have someone, Rachel Walden, come on down. So let me just mention that even though Rachel is up here with me, this is not a free ride for anybody here. This is going to be totally interactive, and Janet told me I have to make it fun and interactive, otherwise I get fired, all right? So even though I'm going to ask Rachel a few questions, everybody has to get involved. And really, honestly, the more involved you become in this presentation, the better it's going to work. That's what it's really about. So the first step in this process is to become aware of your sweet spot. So I'm going to ask Rachel a time when she was at her best, but right now I want you to think about a time when you were at your best. Like you were just, and think about an event, like a specific event that you were at your best, that you were in the zone, that's your sweet spot. So go ahead and think about that for a moment, and then I'm going to ask Rachel to interact with me. So Rachel, tell us a time, and I've already talked to Rachel on the phone, so it's not like she doesn't know what I'm going to say. So Rachel, tell us a time, and before you do that, actually, I don't think everybody knows who you are and where you work. So let's ask you, where do you work?
I work at Belmont University in the Office of Career Services here in Nashville, and I am a career development specialist.
That sounded like it was staged.
It wasn't. I just say it a lot. I go to a lot of networking events.
Okay, good. So what I'm always fascinated with is, why did you go into career services?
Well, I actually started off in recruiting, but my undergraduate degree was in psychology, and I always knew I wanted to do something helping people. So working as a recruiter, I really enjoyed what I was doing, but I didn't feel like I was giving back. And so when the position opened up almost 2 years ago at Belmont, I applied, and it was the only position I applied for. And it just turned out to be a perfect fit, and I got it, so it was great. And I really love what I do, and I still work with employers to recruit students, but also work with mainly undergraduate students. I really enjoy it.
You have such a rewarding job, like everybody else does. So tell us a time when you were at your best.
So recently I planned a practice interview event where we have students and employers participate. And it's a really helpful event for students because they're able to get practice with their interview skills as well as feedback from employers. And they also get the opportunity to network. And employers really appreciate it because they get the opportunity to meet great candidates who have signed up to participate. So everything went as planned. I got great feedback. Both the students and the employers really appreciated it and enjoyed the event.
And what's interesting about a sweet spot moment is usually you're not quite sure what's going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. It's a challenge. You're not quite sure, but you're really invested in this moment. And when it happens, it feels just so great. So to capture this sweet spot moment better, I've discovered there's 5 levels related to your sweet spot. And these levels are your confidence, which we'll discuss in a minute, your energy, your enjoyment, your nervousness, and were you thinking or reacting? So again, think about your sweet spot moment and think about these levels. So let me ask Rachel, in terms of your confidence, was it high, medium, or low?
High.
High. What was your energy level? High, medium, or low?
High.
What was your enjoyment? High, medium, or low?
High.
High, okay. Because you were really, it was great. It was, and that's those 3 are usually about the same. Mm-hmm. The next 2 are somewhat different sometimes. Were you nervous, or were you calm, or somewhere in the middle?
Somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle. Because sometimes with everybody's sweet spot, sometimes they're very nervous, but other people are very calm. And were you thinking or reacting?
Thinking.
You were thinking, okay. Because sometimes when you're in your sweet spot, sometimes people are just reacting. So think about you. What were those 5 levels for you? Because it's really important because it relates to the next step, or the next step in this process, and that is, I want you to think about a sour moment, a time you just choked, you were the worst, you stunk. Think about a time that it didn't work out, okay? All right, and I'm going to ask Rachel again. Tell us a time you were in a sour moment.
Well, I decided I probably shouldn't pick something for my current job.
No, that'd be bad, especially
Not that I have any.
if your boss is here. I don't know yet.
She is
okay.
here.
All right.
So,
where's your boss?
She's in the blue,
Oh,
Patricia
yeah.
Jacobs.
Remember, she said she loves her job.
Yeah.
Loves it. Okay.
So while I was working as a recruiter at a staffing company, I was responsible for interviewing candidates and placing them on assignments with company clients. So I interviewed a lady and wasn't 100% sure about her, but decided to take a chance and actually placed her on an assignment with one of our new clients. Well, she showed up the first day to work and everything was fine, and then the next day she didn't show up. And so we couldn't get in touch with her, she wouldn't return my calls, and the client was just so disheartened, and we lost the account because of that.
Right.
So that was hard.
And it was hard on you, and your emotions are different from the best day, right?
Absolutely.
So going back to these 5 levels, what was your confidence for that moment?
Low.
Low. What was your energy?
Medium.
Medium. What was your enjoyment?
Low.
Were you calm or nervous or in the middle?
Nervous.
Nervous. And were you thinking or reacting?
Reacting.
Reacting, okay. And a lot of times with you, as with Rachel, as with everybody, when you look at your best versus your worst moments, there's one thing that's just going to jump out at you. One main thing between these 5 levels, and that one main thing is really what you want to focus on to be at your best. So again, Rachel, what would be one thing that between your best state, your sweet spot moment, and your sour moment, what would be one thing that would jump out at you?
My enjoyment was a lot lower, and my nervousness was higher.
Okay, so enjoyment. Okay,
Right.
So let's just focus on that.
Okay.
And think about you, because this is going to be very impactful. Think about one thing with you between those 5 levels, one main difference. Because it's actually going to move, we're going to move to the next step, which is this. You want to personalize your sweet spot. And you do that through buzzwords, images, and actions. And again, this is going to be very interactive. And let me tell you right now, I'm going to ask Rachel, because she's already thought about it, what her buzzword would be related to her best state and really emphasizing that one main difference. But I'm just warning you right now, I'm coming out and I'm going to ask a few of you for your buzzword. So be ready. Everyone's got to get their buzzword ready. Okay, think about it. What would be one main difference between your best and your worst state? And make your buzzword represent that one main difference. But really, you want to make it so when you think about your buzzword, it creates a feeling. It stimulates that sweet moment. It's got to be very, very powerful to work. So it takes time, yes, but for right now, just think about a word that would represent that. And of course, I've already asked Rachel, so she's thought about it. So what would be a buzzword that represents your sweet spot moment?
So my buzzword is radiate.
Okay, and let's stop right there.
Okay.
That is a great word, isn't it? Don't you feel that, like radiate? And I know it makes her feel like, you know, great energy, great enjoyment, because that's the one thing that she wanted to focus on. And so it has like a feeling with that word, and that's what you want. If you have a great buzzword, it's going to almost have a feeling that when you say it, you feel it. And so what would be an image?
The sun.
The sun, okay, because it radiates. Now you could do this a couple different ways. You could have a word that and the image together, or you can have an image in your mind about a time when you were at your best. Like when you were interacting with a student and you guys connected so well and you just felt so, the enjoyment. If you remember that exact time, which I guarantee you do, there's times in your life where you just connected with that person so well, that could be your image and you just felt that radiation. So it could be the sun or it could be a specific time. And then what would be an action?
Smiling.
Smiling, because when you radiate, you have a what word would that be? A vibrant
Yes.
smile. Okay, so that's great. So those three things can capture her sweet spot moment. And before we go on to the next step, I warned you that I was going to come out and ask you your buzzword. So my first one is, it's kind of I've already asked her. So be prepared, Lynn. Oh, yeah. What's your buzzword?
Maybe I should preface it a bit.
No, just tell us, because we all know.
Are you ready?
No, well, oh, sure, you could stand up.
You love it because I'm so shy. Bazinga!
Bazinga! Yeah, see? And that's from
Big Bang
Big Bang Theory. But let me ask you, why Bazinga?
Primarily, I work with engineers, scientists. If you've seen the cast of Big Bang Theory, that's who's in my office every day. I have Sheldon knocking at my door, I promise you.
But that's a great word, because how does it make you feel when you say Bazinga?
Bazinga! I mean,
It gives you energy,
has
right? Yeah.
action.
Yeah, it has. So that's great. Okay, so that's a great word. All right. I might put you on the spot if you. What's your name?
Wayne.
Wayne, because
Yes.
it's got you. I
Yes,
can see it.
yes.
Yeah, Wayne.
Right here, yeah.
There you go. In case you forgot it. Okay. Tell us an emotional buzzword.
It's not as exciting as those words, but I just thought of the word fun.
Fun.
When I was in my zone, it was just.
That's
was
okay.
Fun. I had a
That's so
great
fun.
time.
And then the only thing I would just recommend is if you can get a specific fun feeling.
Right.
Then this is just the first kind of rough draft.
Bazinga fun.
Bazinga fun. Okay. All right. One more, a couple more. Do you have a buzzword? Wait. Mary?
I'm kind of like Wayne. I just enthusiasm.
Okay, enthusiasm. Okay. We'll go around a few more. Buzzword? Superstar. See? That's great. Let's do a few over here. Any volunteers?
I figured you'd pick on me.
I know. You're pickable.
Mine isn't exciting either, but I would say perseverance.
Perseverance. And that's a great word because it makes you kind of toe and push. But I would just say if you could find a word that just really captures perseverance for you, then it's going to work a lot better. Because that's kind of a dry, but you're on the right track, right? Let's do one more and then I'll tell you mine. Oh yeah, okay.
Game.
Game?
Because I got it.
You got game? Okay. And that was actually a movie, You Got Game.
I got it.
Have you seen that movie, You Got Game?
No, I didn't have to see that movie.
That's a really good movie, yeah.
I recognize game.
I could tell you got game. So you can sit down now. Thanks, Rachel. So let me tell you my buzzword. When I was, I remember this was probably like 8-9 years ago, I spoke at Millbrook School. It was a small school, private school in upper state New York. and I was doing a sports psych talk there, and every student that goes to that school, a lot of them are going to go to Harvard and Yale. It's just this really prep, big-time school. They've filmed a lot of movies there. It's like the idyllic setting. They filmed Regarding Henry. Have you seen that movie? And World According to Garp. They filmed those movies there, so you know it's beautiful. It's like Ivy League high school, prep school. And every student there has to participate in 2 sports, right? And you know a lot of them don't have any idea how to play the sport. And when they said I was going to come and speak about mental toughness, they were so interested. And I actually spoke on this hill on their chapel. And everybody there is like, I could just feel their energy. They were like sitting there, and they were just so energized. And actually, as I was doing my sports psych talk, I almost felt like I was out of my body. And I was saying to my body, "You're doing a great job. Way to go. Hang in there. They like it." And it resonates in my mind. It's that template we talk about. It's so powerful. And when I think about that moment, the greatest buzzword that I could associate with that moment is make a difference. Because I could tell that I was making a difference with those kids. And so I use that buzzword on as a daily routine. So like before I came today, I said, make a difference. And it makes me feel the enjoyment that I'm not up here trying to prove anything. I'm only trying to make a difference in your lives. And isn't that a great feeling? And when I go teach a class, before I go teach a class, I say make a difference every time before I step in the class. Or I go, whatever I do, what I think I need to have that great energy, I say make a difference, and it pushes my emotions in the right direction. And that relates to the next step, which is create the sweet spot habit. And you create habits through daily routines. And what we just did with buzzwords, images, and actions fit so beautifully into a daily routine. Because those images, those buzzwords, and those actions are really primers. And primers push your emotions. They actually literally push your emotions in the direction you want them. But I'm going to prove my point with a fun experiment. And this is what we're going to do. This is Group A, right here. Everybody Group A, you're Group A. You're right in the middle. You're Group B, okay? So what I want Group A to do right now is look at the screen, but Group B, you have to turn away. So turn away from the screen, okay? Only Group A can look at the screen, okay? That word is your primer, okay? Okay, now Group A, turn away from the screen. Group B, you can look at the screen now, okay? This is your word, okay? Now, both of you look at the screen. Everybody look at the screen, okay? Let me ask Group A. What word are you thinking? Soup. Okay, it's supposed to be soup. If it's soap, you're an outlier. I'm kicking you out. Group B, what were you thinking about? Soap. Totally soap. It's interesting. Every time I do this, most people say soup. But let me ask you, how is steamy soap? Oh, okay. All right, I can see that. But most of you, I pushed you in the right direction. That was the primer. But everybody with here, I pushed you. With the word, we pushed you, at least most of you, in the right direction. All right, let's do one more. Actually, let's do 2 more. This group, I want you to smile. Just give me an authentic smile, okay? That's easy. This group, Group B, you have to scowl. And I want you to get that little crinkle right here. Get the crinkle, okay? If I don't see the crinkle, you're not scowling. Okay, everybody look at this picture. It says, the real reason dinosaurs became extinct. That's a Gary Larson cartoon. And this is an actual experiment, The Group A that smiled, their laugh-o-meter was actually a lot higher than the group that crinkled. Your laugh-o-meter was a lot lower. You didn't enjoy this cartoon. Just by having an action, it changed your emotions. It pushed your emotions in a different direction than this group. Here's what's even more fascinating. Group A, this was an actual experiment. I showed you a picture of older adults, all right? A series of pictures like this of older adults. Group B, I showed you a picture of younger adults. But here's the actual experiment. I had you walk down the hall, let's say to the next saloon or the next room, and the actual experiment is this. We timed you in terms of how fast you were walking. Group A, you actually walked slower than Group B. Now, you're thinking, there is no way that's going to work. There's no way. And the participants in the experiment said, no, that's not going to happen. But it's true, because primers work below our conscious level. They work in our subconscious. And do you know advertisers have spent millions of dollars finding the right words and the right images to push your emotions, to make you buy the right stuff? Those are primers. So what I'm saying today is to take control of your primers. Be the master of your primers so that you will push your emotions in the right direction, because it's so powerful. And one of the best ways you can do that is through a routine, which I call prime your routine. So we're going to do something fun right now. I want you to think about a challenging moment that's going to come up in the next couple weeks, maybe month. Maybe it's dealing with a tough student. Maybe it's dealing with a boss, setting up a career fair. Whatever it is, think about a very challenging moment that's going to come up in your life, okay? You have it? Now what I want you to do, and let me tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to have you close your eyes. I'm going to have you don't have to do it yet. Let me just tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to have you close your eyes, and then I'm going to have you see yourself, and we'll keep it simple. Just say your buzzword. Just say your buzzword in your mind, and I want you to see yourself have this great emotion as you walk into that difficult situation. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So everybody close your eyes. Take some nice deep breaths. Okay, I want you to see yourself saying that buzzword, feeling those great emotions. All right, stop. Open your eyes, stop, really. Be honest with me, be honest. Who really felt, raise your hand, who really felt those great emotions? Only a few of you, a couple of you. And that's great. You are going to be a superstar with this method. And a lot of you didn't feel it. You know why you didn't feel it? Because you haven't practiced it and you don't believe in it. And I know a lot of you have tried self-help techniques. You've read self-help books. I know a lot of you want to get in better shape. You want to make a life change, maybe quit smoking, maybe have a better attitude about your life and your spouse. And you've tried techniques, and they don't work, so you don't stick with them, and so you give up. And so now you're frustrated with these changing techniques. Maybe you're ashamed that you didn't stick with it. Maybe you're depressed because you didn't make that life change. But let me tell you right now that this technique that I'm showing you is not like other techniques. It is so powerful because it's based on your uniqueness. And because it's based on your uniqueness, it's going to work, and that's what makes it so powerful. But it's also based on the new science of habit formation. And let me show you with a question. Or let me explain with a question. What do you think is the number one reason why people stick with an exercise program? What do you think is the number one reason why people stick with an exercise program? I know some of you are thinking because they lost weight, because they had long-term goals, because they always did it at the same time. That's not the number one reason. The number one reason, and clearly the best reason above everything else, was because long-term exercisers had a euphoric feeling right after they exercised. They had a short-term goal. And so what we know in the new science of habits is that when you exercise and you get a good feeling, a short-term reward, not long-term, short-term, that you're going to do it over and over, and it's going to create a habit. The exercisers that exercised and they only felt tired, they didn't stick with the program. And if that's like you, if you just feel tired after you exercise, that's probably one of the reasons why you didn't stick with your program. Well, let me tell you, what I'm telling you today is based on the same principle, and that is the routine that you are setting up, that we're setting up together, based on your primers, based on the right words, the right images, and the right actions, will push you into that sweet spot. which is a good feeling, right? When you're in your sweet spot, that's a good feeling. And because it's a good feeling, you're going to do it again and again and again, and it's become a habit. And because you see it become a habit, you know it's going to work. But I want you to commit to one thing today. Just commit to one thing today with me. And that's this. It's just to take a small step in the direction of this method. Just a small step, because we know in the new science of habit formation, small wins create long-term habits. And the small step I want you to create is called the sweet spot alarm clock. You know at 2 o'clock when your emotions take that dip, right? About everybody around 2:30, emotions take a dip. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody feels that. Well, at that time, I know most of you will reach for that sugary drink. You reach for that snack you don't want to eat. You might even reach for that 5-hour energy drink. Not anymore. Nope. Sorry, that's over with. What I want you to do is set that sweet spot alarm clock in your mind. And right when you feel that dip, it's going to go off. Beep, 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 beep. Okay, I'm not a professional alarm clock. Okay, I get it. It's going to go off, and when it goes off, I want you to do this routine. I want you to say your word. I want you to think about your image, and I want you to do your action. And when you do it, and if you've made those powerful words, actions, and images, it's going to push you in the right direction. It's going to make you feel good. It's going to push your emotions in the right direction. And when you find that it works, then you're going to do it in other times of your day, like in the morning, or when you have to meet with an easy client, or in the afternoon, right before you get home, when you need that great energy for your family. It's going to push your emotions the right direction because it worked. And then ultimately, it's going to become a habit. And so that when you have that difficult situation that's going to come up time and time again in your life and at work, you're going to fall back into your great emotions. Just like Captain Sullenberger, you're going to fall back into those great emotions, not because it was a miracle, but because you've emotionally prepared yourself to be at your best when it really counts. And what I've discovered when I share this method with you and other people and do my coaching, I've discovered that there's a lot of people that use this method intuitively for so many avenues of their life. Last year, Joel Osteen came to speak in Nashville. Did anybody see him? Yeah, he was great, wasn't he? Yeah. And I love his message, and my wife really likes him. And I wanted to see what gave him so much charisma because he has a huge following. He's this televangelist that's in Houston, but he just has a huge following. People love him. And I wanted to see, being a speaker, what gives him such great charisma. Well, I found out what it was. It was his mother. His mother's 5'0". She comes on stage, she's this great ball of energy, and she says, 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. And the doctor gave me about a year to live. And so I did the chemo, and I did the radiation, and my hair fell out, and my skin turned a different color. And she said, I didn't want to feel sick, and I didn't want to look sick. So I never looked in the mirror. What I did was I posted pictures of my healthiest self all over the house, when I was in the mountains, when I was at the beach, when I was with my kids, when I just felt the healthiest. And I would point at those pictures and say, I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy. And then she said, today I'm cancer-free. My cancer's in remission. And I know there's a lot of things that contributed to her health, but I know in my heart that this method pushed her emotions into a healthy direction. It's very powerful. And it works not just for business or sport. It works in every avenue of your life. And so I want to finish this morning by giving you a proverb that I think you've heard a lot, but it's one of my favorites. And it's, when you give a person a fish, they eat for a day. When you show a person how to fish, they eat for a lifetime. Well, hopefully I didn't throw you just a fish today. My goal was to show you and give you techniques and strategies so that you could coach yourself to greatness, so that you could feel these great emotions, so that you could be in your sweet spot time and time again, every day, in every situation, for the rest of your life. So I thank you for your time this morning. Enjoy the book. Everybody gets a book.